people need to seriously consider using a version of Linux going forward in the future, because things have started to get really tight with Windows 11. They're tightening up things where I think in later releases, they're really pushing for people, everybody have Windows 11. They're going to make it so you have to get the software through the Microsoft Store. And I think that really restricts people that want to use software that is not necessarily within the general public, or software that may not be permitted, such as emulators and things like that have generally been shunned in the Microsoft Store. I think now's the time to go to Linux. Have a dual boot, so you can still have your Windows on one partition of your computer, or a second drive of your computer, or just have a separate version of Linux on another machine. But just start getting used to it. There's nothing you can't really do on a Linux machine that you can't do on Windows. They're both very, very similar. Okay. Probably the most noticeable thing is probably hardware support, especially when it comes to power management. Power management in the sense of standby and running in low battery mode, things like that. Some of those things have not completely been mastered in the different kernels that have been released, mainly due to proprietary information that hasn't been made to the public, so it can be added to the kernel, which is obviously open source. Ubuntu Linux, Mint Linux, which is one that I've recently been using, great distributions. Another distribution that I've used for many years before I started using Ubuntu was Red Hat Linux. I used that back until the 90s. I was using 5.6 and 6.2 of Red Hat Linux. But now it's a commercial product, and I'm trying to think of there is like a community version of Red Hat, and for some reason it's just not coming to my mind right now, but I haven't used it. But if you're not looking for an extremely technical version, I would recommend Mint or Ubuntu. You can install your own software on there. If you need to run Windows software there on it, you can use Wine, which is a emulation layer, or a simulation layer, I should say, using the Windows API, enabling you to run many pieces of Windows software in a Linux environment. Another good reason is Windows is constantly sending diagnostic data back to Microsoft. In some ways, that could be good if it means they're going to fix a problem, but for the most of it, it's information that they share with their partners. They say they don't sell that information, and sometimes they do say they sell that information. But they share it with their partners, but they don't explicitly say that their partners don't sell that information once it's in their hands. So you really want to think about what you're giving up as far as personal information goes when you're using Windows. I mean, I've been using Windows for many years, and I loved it back in the early days, and it's just progressively got worse. I did have Windows 10 was a little bit of a comeback after Windows 8, and like Windows 7 was a bit of a comeback for Windows Vista. A lot of people didn't like Windows Vista either, but Windows 11, yeah, I mean they're tightening up the screws on this operating system, and over time with updates, it's going to get harder and harder to get anything done as far as third-party software. So unless they just suddenly allow, certain third-party softwares to now be in that store because of that, I don't think that's going to happen, because historically Microsoft's made things extremely hard. They did that with their mobile operating system. I don't know if any of you used Windows 8 mobile or Windows 7 mobile, which was on a lot of HTC and other smaller touchscreen devices that used a pen. You could install whatever software you wanted on those, but by the time they got to Windows 8 mobile, you could only get things from the store. Sideloading software wasn't ideal. You could do it, but they made it as hard as possible. So I guess I'm putting a pitch in for people to try Linux, to at least try it. See if they can get used to something new. Because I think the time to do it is now. Because things are definitely ramping up. And I don't see Windows as being it's never been open source, but I don't think it's going to be an easy operating system for technicians or radio operators or hobbyists to use in the future. It's all going to come back to Linux. And most of the world runs on Linux. You just don't see it. I mean, all the servers that run websites, most of them, it's got to be I don't know the exact numbers, but it's a huge percentage run Linux because of its stability. I think Microsoft's own servers themselves run on Linux because it's a far more stable operating system than any of the Windows Server products. So I just want to encourage you to use Linux, and if you have any questions, just ask me, because you just got to dive into it. And if you've got a spare older laptop, you can use that to get started, and your older laptop may perform way better than what it did with Windows on it. And you may start using that older laptop, which maybe has been put to the side for whatever reasons, again, and start using it as your full-time computer again. I mean, that's what often happens with people when they first install Mint Linux on an older laptop. They realize that, wow, this thing's really performing well. Wow, it's really playing videos well. Wow, it's really responsive. So go ahead, give it a go, and don't be scared. It's for everybody. It's for absolutely everybody. All right. All the best.